Let's see. Let me make sure I've got everything set up here. I literally was listening to a training and totally spaced off what time it was and happened to look up right as it was time to start. So I'm a little bit scatterbrained for a second. And anywho, give you a second to hop on. We're going to talk about kiddos today. So if you hop on here, go ahead, say hello, tell me where you're from. I'm having super wonky hair, by the way, just because I'm going to try. I told myself before I started, don't play with your hair because I need to cut my bangs really bad. Dave's like, oh, I'll do it for you. Hello, Lisa. Happy Monday. Dave totally volunteered to cut my bangs, but I was like, I'm going to pass. I'm going to hot mess express pass on that. But, you know, he was definitely trying to be helpful, but they're totally in my eyes. Okay, so hop on, say hello. Hi, Jan. Hi, beautiful. How are you? I gotta tell you guys, I'm gonna do a product shout out. So freaking cool. I gotta tell you. Now, in my defense, I really needed something that was incredibly portable, we'll say. I needed something incredibly portable that was super simple for me to be working on some of the work that I'm doing right now as I drop it on the floor. And so Dave was super awesome, and he went and got me this gigantic tablet. And I'm going to tell you what. So this is an Apple tablet. You guys, I'm going to show you this because it's so freaking cool. I wasn't sure if I would love it when I first got it, but check this out. So this is the tablet, right? And then it has this keyboard that attaches to it. It's like magnetically attached to it. And then you do this flippy dill and you have like this little super cool, I don't know, it's so compact and so cool. And it has this like cool Apple Pen, and as you write, it could turn your handwriting into actually into typing. I don't know. I might be amused by really cool things, but I love it because it's a replica of my phone, right? So everything's on there. So if I need to make a post or do something on social media, like it's all just like my phone, but in bigger space, and I can use the keyboard. Super freaking cool. Okay. All right, guys. Janet, I'm so happy to have you here as well. All right. Okay, let's rock this. We're going to talk about kids. I was like, I don't know what was going on, but all day, usually is what happens is as much as I would love to pre-plan what I talk about on these calls, really just comes to me at some point. And it usually happens in the morning. I'm like, okay, Monday morning, this is what we're going to talk about. And like, I just wasn't running across anything. Nothing was popping up. And then I was like, man, I really got to pick something. And I was like, kids, I need to talk about kids, because I was like, what are people struggling with right now? And I was like, what am I struggling with? Let's talk about what I'm struggling with. Kids. So I thought, yeah, like I have some pretty good experience in this realm. For those of you that haven't followed me for very long, just as a little view here. So I have a 21-year-old boy, a 17-year-old boy that's about to turn 18. And then we have our caboose, who is about to turn 6. So Tayson is going to be 6 in August. This was kind of funny. So for some of you, I made a happy birthday post to Stetson. So he's the 21-year-old, and I posted a picture of him when he was little. It looks just like Tayson, right? I think some of you thought it was Tayson's birthday. It was actually Stetson's, but Stetson was just as blonde as Tayson. So after I posted, I was like, oh my gosh, there's lots of resemblances here between my two boys. They're both blonde and blue-eyed for sure. Okay, so let's talk about being a parent. First of all, let's just get this out there, guys. Being a parent is hard, freaking hard. It's really difficult, okay? So when I first was going to talk about this, I sort of had it set on guilt and having parent guilt. And then it sort of evolved into something else. So we go with it because I'm a true believer that the impressions that I'm getting or the, spiritual awakening that's coming with whatever we need to talk about is definitely focused on what you need to hear the most or what one of you is really struggling with. And so we're going to talk about that because being a parent is hard. And when we feel like we're failing at being a parent, then the guilt sets in and we become really messy because we are actually, doing that thing that I talk about all the time where we're saying all the time, I'm not a good parent. And then we're literally manifesting whatever we're saying that we're not a good parent, right? Okay. I shook my head. I know I said I'm not going to play with my long banks, but I did shake my head. So I had to move them. All right. So let's talk about some of the stuff that came up for me when I was thinking about this. Like, how do you survive this? How do you survive parenthood? First of all, guys, the opinions of other people. Now, I'm not saying that if the neighbor lady calls you up and says, hey, which this may have happened to me recently, hey, your kid beat up my kid. Okay, we're not just going to be like, all right, that's your opinion, so I don't want to talk to you, whatever, right? We're not going to do that. We're going to be like, okay, let's, I'm going to have a conversation with my kiddo. They're probably going to have a conversation with their kiddo. Depending on, where you are with that relationship, maybe you want to get together with them and have a conversation, whatever, because kids do this, right? They bicker, they fight, and sometimes it gets a little bit out of control. So like, even for me, I had someone mention something to me about a child that Taysom was having an issue with, and I am not aware of the child's background at all. So I don't know anything about what's going on. And they were like, oh, this they've been through a lot. And I was like, okay, right. That's like an eye-opening thing for me. Okay, perfect. Like, I don't need to know any details, but now I know if my kid's playing with their kid, there's can be some underlying things going on, and we just don't know, right? We don't know what kind of chaos is going on in a home. And that's a whole nother topic, right? But I'm definitely going to be like more receptive to like trying to feel, okay, what does this kiddo need from me that maybe they're not getting at home? So, but it comes back to other people's opinions. Like, am I really listening to somebody else's opinion who, number one, this is my favorite, is when I'm talking about my older kids and someone tells me, oh, well, you really need to set your foot down. You really need to kick them out of the house. You really need to do this, that, or the other. And I'm like, remind me how many teenagers you have. And they're like, oh, none. That's right. So your kids are still 2 and 5. And so, and I just realized that my really good friends' kids are about that age. I am not talking about you, really good friend. But really, raising kids that are younger is a whole nother ball game than when your kids get bigger. And I will tell you that I've definitely probably been in this boat before where well, no, I know I have, because I did it to my own mom, because I have a brother. My brother is 17 years younger than I am. So he was 6 months old when I got married the first time. And I remember when he was probably in high school, early high school, he did something. And I remember just going to town on my parents, being like, I can't believe that you're letting him get away with that. And if it was my kid, blah, 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 blah. Okay, right? Now that I have kids that are that age, I will tell you that I do not do what I blah, blah, blah told my mom to do. It's not that cut and dry. So, be mindful of other people's opinions is what I like to do with people's opinions. Is I don't like to be the person that just tosses them aside and I don't have to listen to anyone. Guys, give it a little like, okay, let me see your opinion. Does it have some validity to it? If I do some self-reflection on myself, maybe somebody told me your kid is acting up because they don't get enough sleep. Maybe that is a valid opinion. So instead of just throwing that out that window and thinking to myself, I'm not going to listen to you. You don't know anything. Don't tell me what to do. Right? That's my natural reaction because I don't like being told what to do. But instead I can be, a mature adult and say, okay, let's look at this. Is my child maybe not getting enough sleep? Maybe is that potentially related to why they are acting out? And I might say to myself, you know what? there's probably a really high probability that that could be the case because I get really crazy when I don't get enough sleep. So potentially my child also gets really crazy when they don't get, okay, see? So valid opinion. Now, if someone just, comes out and says, well, if my kid was doing that, I would ground them for 3 months and take away this and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, that's super cool. But maybe my punishment methods are a lot different than theirs. So that's the first one. This is the second one that I was like, this is something to wrap my head around too. Past beliefs. As a parent, past beliefs, what are you stuck on? Okay. I'll give you some simple ones that popped up for me. If my house isn't clean, then. And you may be like, what does that have to do with parenting? A lot, because your kids live here. And so if your house is messy, who are you probably blaming it on? Your kids, right? So if my house isn't clean, I am like, think about this. Let it resonate. Let it resonate with yourself a little bit. Think about this and think about it with your inner self, as I like to talk about having conversations with myself. Is my house not being clean a reflection of what kind of parent I think I am? It actually does have a lot to do with that, because I feel as though I have a past belief that everything needs to be in order. My kids need to be in order. My house needs to be clean. The laundry is folded. My kids are clean. Everybody's bathed, like, right? That whole, like, everything is laid out perfectly. So what kind of past belief is that? Okay, there's some truth, guys, to having life organized and having things flowing. I know that over summer vacation, we have Tayson's run amok, honestly, just to be quite frank with you. We let him stay home with his older brothers. Probably wasn't the best idea. I should have kept him with daycare, my babysitter, because he had structure every day. And I think not having structure, he's just gone like amok. So, okay, calm down, right? School's going to start in a few weeks. He's going to get back into his little groove and everything's going to be fine. So having some structure, there is some validity to having some structure. My house had become a complete chaotic war zone because I work all day. I have 2 businesses that need attention, and I have kids and a house and horses and dogs and who knows what else, and myself to take care of. And so my house had gotten to a complete point of chaos. And I told myself on Saturday morning, I was like, all right, you know what? I need to spend some time like doing a really super big deep clean and just getting back to where I need to be. Cleaning my office as I look around, because I'm like, when I went live, I didn't even notice. Like, for all I know, there's a dead body back there that I accidentally forgot to put into the backyard. Okay, was supposed to. Cleaning my office, getting my house together, making sure that things are, not, because I don't need to be in that spot where I'm a perfectionist and my house has to be super clean. But, when it starts smelling funky, that's kind of my point where I'm like, okay, I need to like stop for a second and do some cleaning so that I can feel like I'm not stressing out, because there is a point. There is a point, guys. Okay. But I don't have to have my house perfect. So what's your past belief? Is there some kind of past belief that you are stuck on that is creating stress between you and your kids because you feel like they need to be doing this a certain way and they're not? And so it's actually creating a huge stressor. Now, I'm going to touch on one that might hit a nerve for some of you. Keep in mind that I am not telling you there is a right or a wrong to this. I'm just using it as an example because it's stuck in my mind. I remember when I was a teenager, my friends were all older than me. So my friends were all pretty much graduated from high school, and I was still a junior. So they didn't have curfews. They did things that, older kids could do. Some of them actually had houses. And so it was really hard for me because they would go camping and I would want to go camping. And I remember my mom, who, love you, Mom. I don't think you watch me anyways, but love you, Mom. I remember my mom saying to me, you cannot go camping with them. And I was like, please, I promise I'll be good. I'll tell you right where I am. Yada, yada, yada. And, from my mom's point of view, I can totally see why she was like, absolutely not. You're not going camping with a bunch of 20, 21-year-olds, yada, yada, right? That's just an accident waiting to happen, probably. But is what my mom said to me that really like kind of rung with me was I was like, what? Why do we care about that? She said, once again, Mom, if you're watching, I love you. And I know lots of people do this. She said to me, you cannot go with them. And I'm like, okay, why? And she's like, what are the neighbors going to think if they know that I've let my daughter go camping with these older people, these older boys? And I was like, what will the neighbors think? Now, surprise, surprise, right? I may have be the type of person that does not really care what other people think. And so that one to me really struck a chord. But Dave has told me before that his mom is the same exact way, only on a much larger scale. She's like, what will the neighbors think? Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. That's the first thing that pops out of her mouth. What will the neighbors think if they see this? What will the neighbors think if they know about this? And I'm like, who cares? Like, I don't really care what your neighbors think. I really don't. That's not like my goal in life is not about what my neighbors think. So, I mean, I have ran around outside of my own yard in my underwear, and so has Dave. And I really don't care what my neighbors think. They can put up for sale signs and move, and sometimes they do, and it's great. But anyway, so past beliefs, though, what are you going off of? Like, am I making decisions for my kids based off of what my neighbors will think because that's how I was raised and that's something my mom said to me? Interesting. So, think about that. Have that conversation with yourself. Are there past beliefs that I think need to happen? And so it's causing me a lot of stress with my kids. My child needs to read by this age. My child, like, how do you know when your kids should be walking? Because probably your mother told you, right? Or you read it on social media, but there's some kind of belief that you have stuck in your head. And when you don't meet that expectation, then you create some self induced stress. So just don't do that to yourself. Thoughts. We're going to talk about thoughts now. We know that I'm huge into talking to myself and manifesting things by my way that I use words. So your thoughts, are they creating your reality for what kind of a parent you're being? Okay. Guys, super simple, but are you saying to yourself, I'm a bad mom or dad? Ooh, are you? Because guess what happens? What does your subconscious do? We've talked about this with being overweight, with everything. If I say to myself, I'm a bad mom, what did I just tell my subconscious? You are a bad mom. What am I going to do? I am unknowingly going to start aligning with being a bad mom. Oh, I'm going to say that's probably our light bulb moment of the night. So then, I might become really short of temper. I might say things that, are really negative to my kid. Who knows? I may subconsciously start doing things that I know are really damaging to my own kids that my parents did. Yeah, Jan, all I knew was what not to do, right? And some people are really good about reflecting and doing that and saying, this is how I want to not treat my own children. But sometimes, even though, and I have this happen when I have clients, they'll say, I know that I'm doing this and I know that it's wrong, but I'm doing this to my kids. And I try to tell them, okay, so being aware of it is the number one thing. So you are already on track because you're aware of it. It's the people that aren't willing to admit that they're doing that to their kids. Do you think when somebody's sexually molesting someone that they would be doing it if they were admitting to people like, hey, I'm sexually molesting? No. So saying out loud, like, hey, I know that what I'm doing to my kids isn't right. Like, I get aggressive and physical with my children, and I know that it's wrong, is the first step to being able to stop it. Because if you can't say that you do it, you're suppressing it and you're going to just keep doing it. So realizing that is huge. I'm a bad mom or dad. If you catch yourself saying that all the time, let's have a deeper conversation with yourself and say, okay, why do I feel like I'm a bad dad or mom? And grab a piece of paper and be honest with yourself. Have you ever watched Dr. Laura Schlesinger? She's got some super crazy, as far as like Strickler on things that she is totally for, right? So if you listen to her, you have to do it with a really open mind because you're never going to align with everything. But one thing I really like about that woman is she does not allow excuses for anything. So she would ask you like, okay, why do you feel like you're a bad mom or a dad? And if you're like, well, I don't really know, she'll rip into you, right? She'll be like, you do too, no, blah, blah. I'm not going to talk to you if you don't think you know. So honestly, pen, guys, get this thing called a safe notebook. It's a safe notebook is where you feel like you can write down anything you want and no one will ever read it. Most of us don't have the courage to do that because you're like, what if someone finds it? I don't care if someone finds it. Once again, the opinion of others. Get yourself a safe notebook where you can write down things and you don't care because it's safe, right? It's that place where you go where you can write down anything. So write it down. Okay. Why do I really feel like I'm a bad mom or dad? Okay, super. Now I've got this list. I yell. Okay. So, okay. How I yell. I yell. This is your list of things that you work on daily. I yell. Okay. All right. How do I yell less? I'm going to talk to you about that in a second because I catch myself doing this. But right. So why do you feel like you're a bad mom or dad? Don't just feel like a bad mom or dad. Why are you being like that? Change it. It's no different than, I'm not paying my bills because why? Like ask yourself the why, guys. I see this with people all the time where I'm like, do you self-reflect at all? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you feeling this way? Why? Ask yourself some whys. All right. So Laylee Thiessen has been trying my patience. As I just mentioned, a lot of this I know is from lack of structure because he came from a really structured place and then dove right into summer and it's like freedom for all, right? And he is just running around doing whatever he wants. The older kids really are here to make sure he doesn't die. But as far as like what he's doing, he has too much freedom. And so he's trying my patience. So this is really important, guys. I did some self-reflection over the weekend because I felt like we were yelling at him a lot. So I had to take some breaths and say, okay, you know what? I'm looking at my kid right now. So we're camping and I'm looking at him and I'm like, how is he feeling right now? How is my kid feeling? How would I feel if my parents were talking to me the way that we're talking to him? Now, yes, was he doing things that he shouldn't be doing? Absolutely. But I'm like, man, I feel like we're talking to him in a really belittling, degrading tone. Like, how are we making him feel? How would I feel if someone was talking to me like this? And it was really eye-opening to me to think, wow, you know what, as parents, we can be really mean to our own kids. We can be really cruel. We can be really negative with our words. We can be really negative with our tone of voice. And so for that moment, this is what I was telling myself, like, hey, when you're talking to your kid, I want you to imagine that you are someone else talking to your kid. If I want to let someone else talk to my kid like that, then I shouldn't be talking to him like that either. All right. So step back, take a view, watch and see what you're doing and decide, am I being nice to my kid? Am I being pretty cruel? Right, Jan. I have books, journals that I have peeps who promise to burn them without reading. I'm not going to lie, Jan. I would love to read your books. I think you could probably write some books and become a well-known author, honestly. Okay. So I see now I'm reflecting. I know there's a problem. What am I going to do now? Like, I know there's a problem. Now's when the guilt comes in, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm being so mean to my kid. I'm not being a mom, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just diving down the rabbit hole and I'm going to get my shovel out and I'm just going to start burying myself. And the problem with getting in that space is that I will just continue that behavior. And in fact, it will probably actually get worse because I'll get even more frustrated. And then I'll be taking my frustration out on my kid. All right. So let's talk about how can I do this better? Because I don't want to have guilt. I don't want to have parent guilt. I don't want my kid to grow up and hate me. So what am I going to do here? How can I do this better? Now, keep in mind too, I have older kids, right? So as I'm working with my 6-year-old, and the other thing, guys, that makes this so magical is every child is completely different. So even if you get it figured out with one, it's not going to work on the other ones. So just, keep in mind to give yourself a little space because every kid is different. And some of them are just going to roll through smoothly, and other ones are going to be like hell on wheels. Okay. So how can I do this better? With my son, he really does well with what I call quiet talking. So things will be really loud. The dogs will be barking. We'll be yelling. Everybody is going all crazy. And it really is what he needs is he just wants someone to talk to him. So he gets into this level of elevation of noise and chatter and chaos because he is wanting really actually for someone to talk to him. So you probably heard it before. Sometimes kids do really negative things because they don't care if they're getting negative attention as long as they're getting some attention. And so they act out. And so I have gotten into a space where I find myself taking a breath, and then I get on Tayson's level. By that, I mean, I physically get onto his level. I want to be eye to eye with him. So if that means that I get down on my knees, so I'm talking to him, if I'm sitting with him, I want to be on his level. Just getting on your kid's level, if they're younger, will make a huge difference in how they respond to you. Just try it. It's big because you're now suddenly on an energy level with them. You're vibrating your energy right there. You're making eye contact. You're making them feel important. Plus, it's just a sensory stimulus. You don't probably usually get on that level with your kids. So right away, they're like, what's going on? Right? And they're stopping for a second and paying attention. And then I really explain things. So I tell Tayson, hey, it looks like you had a lot of fun playing in the shower today. And he'll be like, yeah. And I'll say, okay, so I'm totally okay with you having so much fun playing in the shower. I think it's great that you took a shower and you're all clean and you love the water, but mommy needs you to do me a huge favor. So I've done a couple things here, right? I'm acknowledging him. I'm acknowledging what he was doing, that it was fun. So I'm not yelling at him. I'm not belittling him. I'm not making him feel stupid because he likes playing in the shower. I'm not just ripping into him for making a mess. And I'm giving him some importance. I'm asking him for a favor. And so we have this shower that is meant for, it's handicap accessible. So the lip on my shower is only like this tall. So it's meant to be able to roll a wheelchair over it really easily. The problem with that is it just has a free hanging shower curtain and there is no molding over on the side. So if the shower curtain gets out at all, then the water goes all over the molding and underneath my floor, underneath the gap between my floor and my wall, and it obviously creates water damage. So basically in my shower, I have to keep this like gigantic shampoo bottle and I sort of keep it in the corner and wrap the shower curtain around it. And so then you just get in the one way and you don't ever move it. And then it keeps the water from going out of the side right there. Well, the 5-year-old doesn't really understand that, right? He just gets in there and he starts making shampoo potions and, chopping up soap and whatever else it is that he's doing. And so I just had to tell him like, hey, buddy, like he's not going to stop playing in the shower. He's not going to stop being a kid and making a mess with water. Like I can yell at him all my life and this is not going to end. So instead, I'm doing this, getting down on his level. So I'm talking to him face to face. I'm talking quietly and I'm explaining to him. And I'm like, hey, mommy needs you to do me a favor. And I'm making him feel important. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, so we really love our house, right? It's so awesome. And he's like, yeah. And I say, okay. So we want to make sure we take care of our house. So I show him, like I physically show him like, hey, look at the shower curtain. See the shampoo bottle? And I'm showing him, when you keep this here and the water comes out of the faucet and it sprays over here, The shower curtain stays there because the soap bottle is holding it down like a giant rock. And he's like, okay. Like, so if this moves and then the shower water comes out of the curtain and I'm showing him, like I'm moving it and showing him how it can go out, then it gets the wall wet and then it grows yucky mold and then we have to cut the wall out. And I mean, he's totally just like, oh, okay. And so he's just on board with it. He's like, oh, okay. And then he leaves it there, right? How much better is the response than if I'm just yelling at him for, why are you getting water on the floor again? And you're ruining the wall and yada, yada. And now, right, I'm creating like this big negative thing and I'm talking down to him, making him feel stupid. And my mom doesn't love me and on and on and on this goes. Okay. So explaining it. Now, this one is for yourself. Is the reason that you're being in a state of chaos and ripping into your kids or talking down to them or talking poorly, negatively, whatever that is, do you need to slow down? This one I caught myself doing today because I had gone to pick Tayson up to bring him back from Granny's. And I realized that I missed a session and my client was sending me an email. And so I started like freaking out at him to get out of the truck and he wasn't getting out. And so then I started like, get out of the truck. I don't have all day, doing that whole thing. And then I thought, whoa, 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 whoa. It's not his fault that I messed up my client session. It's not his fault that I'm in a hurry. It's not his fault that my life is going 100 miles an hour. So I was like, whoa, calm down. You know what? Hey, let's stop this for a second. Hey, Tayson, do you need some help getting out of the truck? Because he's not moving, like he's just goofing around. So I'm just going to say, hey, do you need some help getting out of the truck? And he's like, no. Of course he doesn't want any help. He's 6 years old. So then guess what he did? He got out of the truck because he didn't want any help. It's a lot of what we're doing to ourselves. So I, in that moment, needed to slow down. Some self-reflection. Okay. Sometimes we get mad at our kids and they're only doing what we taught them to do. That one's really hard to acknowledge. Hold on, because this is some dude coming to get some windows. So I gotta really answer. Hold on. All right. Thanks. What is my address? Okay, perfect. Appreciate you understanding. Okay, self-reflection. This one I told Dave the other night, I was like, ooh, we're getting mad at our kid for something that's like kind of our fault. And he was like, yeah, we are. So for my child, my youngest child, it is definitely understanding money. So Tayson is the caboose. Dave and I are in a much different space than we were when we had our first kids because we have huge age gaps between all of them. So my youngest after Tayson is the one that's about to turn 18 and Tayson's about to be 6. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of development career-wise. That's a lot of differences in where Dave and I are in our lives. And so I will absolutely say that my caboose kid gets spoiled like nobody's business. So we caught him damaging things. And now some of this is because I think he's been watching some kids on YouTube that obviously film stuff and they make lots of money because they break things and they have endless amounts of cash. And so, they're just buying stuff. So I got really upset at my kid because he took some scissors and I have a bed that's not super old. The frame on my bed is probably about 4 years old. And Tayson took a pair of scissors and went down the foot, what is it called? The headboards on the top, the footboard. What the heck is the bottom of the bed called? Anyways, the bottom of the bed frame, he scratched lines all the way across it with a pair of scissors. And so when I saw it, I had a freak out. And I had to come back and be like, okay, Dave, I don't necessarily know that Tayson doesn't really understand what it means to tell him like, hey, you just destroyed something. And so now we have to buy a new one. I don't think he knows, like, because we haven't really taught him so much the value of money because we've been really bad at just getting him whatever he wants. And if he breaks a toy, we've been really bad about getting him a different one without realizing that we haven't taught him the value of things. Here's another one that's really bad at our house. So because we have such younger child, he's a parrot. And he'll basically say whatever you tell him to say. And the older kids know that. And so I have already said, if Tayson goes to first grade this year and says some of the things that he has been parroted to say, I have 100% told everyone in the house that if he gets called into the principal's office for saying this funny thing that you think is so funny for him to say, that you guys are going to go to the principal's office and explain to the principal that you are the one that taught him to do that, because he is going to get in trouble for basically mimicking what he is seeing, right? So our children sometimes get in trouble for things that are our fault. Think about situations where they're coming from an abusive household and they're being really aggressive and beating other kids up, and they're getting in trouble. And what are they doing? Their reflection is based off of how they've been raised, what they're seeing. I've seen this with kids kicking dogs. And then I'm like, well, of course your kid's kicking the dog because you kick your dog. That one, right, can be really eye-opening to think about. So self-reflection, it might not entirely be my child's fault that they're getting into trouble for what they're doing. When's the last time I gave my kids some attention? When's the last time I actually spent some time with my child? Maybe they're severely acting out because I haven't done anything. When Tayson gets into these really big spaces where he is being really loud and being really chaotic, it might be time for us to go to the park. Might be time for us just to do some, mommy kid time. I wish that I could do that with the 21-year-old. He's not really into that, but sometimes I even think for them, like I sometimes have my older kids, they'll come in my office and I don't ever want to send them out unless they have like an actual scheduled appointment. Even if I'm working on something, I put it on pause, right? If my kid's willing to come and talk to me, then I'm going to listen to them. I don't want to be listening to some training that I'm doing or whatever it is, because they're here for a reason. So self-reflection on that one. Here's the big thing with this, guys. When it comes to parenting, these are the words I wrote. I'm trying, learning, messing up, trying again. It's a cycle. And just when you think you have it down, just when you're like, things are smooth, things are going smooth, your kid hits another stage. You get out of the terrible twos, and then later comes, the terrible 6-year-olds. And for every kid, it's different. Even just saying that we're in the terrible twos, right? Is that a past belief? Like, could you potentially be making your child act out because you have it in your head that the age of 2 is supposed to be horrible? Totally possible. And then, they're going to start going through their independence, and then they get into their teenage years, and then you get to have puberty set in, and then, on and on it goes. So you think you have it together, and then you get one to a certain spot, and you're like, okay, I can do it with the next one. And the next child has a completely different personality. So nothing that was working for your previous child works on the one that you have now. And I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, it's okay. This is okay. This is what this is. It's about learning. It's about reflecting. It's about, is there something I can do here to make this better? Am I creating some of the problem? How can I help my kid? Am I actually listening to them? Would I be okay with someone outside of my space talking to my child the way that I'm talking to my child? I've been on the phone with people before and I hear them talking to their kids or their spouse, and I'm just like blown away. I am blown away by the tone of voice and the disrespect that that person is giving to their children or their spouse. And I'm just like, listen to yourself. Maybe record yourself. I mean, there's no better true way to see how you're acting, right? What if we record how we act? I mean, I didn't tell you 100%. I'm absolutely certain there are times during the day that I would be embarrassed, probably every day. Okay. Trying, learning, messing up, trying again. It's all a cycle. When you are sitting here now and you're like, ooh, I got some stuff to work on, make sure that you're saying this to your own self in a kind way. We're not just going to get off the call and start beating ourselves up because we're not the perfect parent, okay? So remember your words. Don't sit and say, I'm just like my mom. I'm just like my dad. I'm just like whoever, because I'm following and doing the same thing they're doing with my kids. Change your verbiage. I'm choosing to change. I'm not being like my mother any longer. I'm choosing to change. Every day I'm becoming different. I'm choosing to become a better mother. I am becoming a better mother. Do it in the moment now. I'm becoming a better mother. I am a better mother. Change your verbiage, change your thought process, change how you are. Take a step back, guys. Take a step back. The one that I told you about, maybe I need to slow down. Take a step back and take a deep breath. If you need to remove yourself from the space, go outside for a second. Go outside for a second. Sometimes I do that. I'll be like, yeah, I think it's about time for me to go out and do chores because I'm about to lose my noodles, right? Remove yourself. Slow down. It's not always your kids doing it. Sometimes it's us. I really did. I aimed this call on not having parent guilt. And I feel like I was like, okay, no, we want to avoid the parent guilt by avoiding the situations that make us feel guilty. There we go. Because I don't want to sit and tell you, oh no, you're a great parent. Don't worry about it. No, I want you to change the situation. Like, why are you feeling the guilt? Let's change it so we don't feel the guilt based off of how we are reacting to our own kids. You're never going to get it all right all the time. But are you trying? Are you trying? Look at those little eyes and just be like, man, how are they feeling? How am I making my own kid feel? And it doesn't matter what age they are. They could be 35. How am I making my own child feel? You guys, the world is crappy enough without you as a parent making your own child feel degraded and demoralized. They're not going to be perfect. Holy crap, were you perfect? No, I certainly wasn't. Like, I look back and I'm like, no, I made some really stupid choices. So hold that space open for your kids to feel like they're in a safe place. Because without you, they really don't have anything else. I had this conversation with a rabbi. So I do at my other job, I get to interact with the rabbi. And he was telling me once when I was like, oh, my kid's 18, so he needs to figure that out on his own. The rabbi was like, no, that's not how that works. That's not what being parenting. Just because he's 18 doesn't mean you just don't help him anymore. And it was really eye-opening to me because where did I get that from? Age 18. Oh, past belief. When my kid's 18, they're on their own. You're an adult. Do it. You figure it all out. Right? Past belief. And the rabbi was like, no. We don't just boot them out when they're 18. They still need support. They're still learning. They're still growing. They're figuring things out. And I was like, okay, you're right. My child still does need to feel that. And, your kids really don't ever be that parent that acts like they don't love their kid. That's just so horrendous, right? I'm just going to kick you out because I don't love you anymore because you're 18. Guys, people need to be loved. Even when your kid's 18, they still need to know that their parents love them. All right. Okay, there you go. All right, guys, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night. I'm getting really super close to posting starting in August some amazing new things that are coming up. I've been really super busy, so I've been working on it nonstop, and I'm like 1st of August. That's when I want to be like. So hopefully this weekend I will announce to you that I will be doing some extra things during the week to help you to stay on track, get on track, stuff that's similar to this. But anyway, all that's coming. Okay. Love you guys. Have a super great night. And thanks for hopping on.